In the training ground, the instructor explained to assume the light she summoned as the enemy's magic attacks. Those who are hit 3 times are dead, so they need to raise their hand and come out. So the mock battle is begun. The soldiers is having a hard time, even though it was only a training. But Zephyr easily pierces through the puppet, and Ned instructs him to not reveal the Dragon King style in a place like that. Together, they goes toward the golem. With his nimble feet, Ned jumps around from the puppet to the golem. Simultaneously, they work together to defeat the golem along with the puppets. The training to eliminate 500 golems is complete, so they can have a 15 minutes break. Arno is surprised to see both of Zephyr and Ned is doing better than he expected. Evaluates the level of the slaves is higher than the previous raid. He then uses his light magic to completely treat their injuries and recover their fatigue. He adds that as long as the healers are around, they will be able to do 4 weeks worth of training in the span of 2 weeks that they had. With that, he starts the training again. When the evening falling, Ned refuses to eat the food that the temple provided. Zephyr brings a plate full of food for them, but Ned still refuses, saying that he needs to maintain his weight to maximize his acceleration. So Zephyr decides to do the same since he will have to carry out the mission if Ned fails. Then Ned questions Zephyr whether he's still planning on outdoing Ned. Zephyr asks him not to make such a face, as he has brought them something good, which is the expensive drink to warm them up, so they can move around better. Drinking at the sunset, Ned asks Zephyr on how much does he know about Ned. At first, he thought that Zephyr was trying to eliminate Ned to take his place. However, Ned realized that Zephyr has no desire to harm him during the training period, adding if Zephyr knows about Ned's deepest secret, he should have demands things now, but he didn't. So Ned asks again what Zephyr means by saying that Zephyr will tell him when Ned deemed trustworthy. Looking at him, Zephyr thoughts that Ned is different. At first, Ned was blindly trying to kill him, yet being together for 2 weeks had an effect on their relationship. So Zephyr tells him that he is asking the wrong question. What should he ask should be where the blood tears is and who has it. So Zephyr tells him where the sword is and who has it. It is explained that the Strier Barony's heirloom, the demonic sword Blood Tears. It is a trophy that their ancestor obtained after defeating the demons of the desert. Once their ancestor offered up that sword to the king, he gave their family the title of Baron and ordered them to watch over the Blood Tears for generations to come. Ned's father tells him that one day Ned will become a Baron of the Strier family, as he will also inherit that honorable mission when that time comes, and his father encourages him to become a knight that befits that sword. But then, the temple came knocking, the Baron screaming for the temple to give back the sword as he only put the Baron title and estate as collateral for the loan, but not the Blood Tears. The priest explained to him that he given up his Baron title, and the Blood Tears belongs to the Baron, so he no longer have any authority for it, which makes him angry, then unsheathes his sword to strike the priest. But the temple's knight interrupt the attack. A knight chops both of his hands and the other stabs him in the stomach, while Ned can only watch his father getting killed in front of him. When the priest explained if his sword had reached the priest, harm the son of Bishop who is noble blood, they would had to execute his son as well. That's 12 years ago, when the dungeon investments start to become excessive, but raids continued to fail. That caused the economic crisis, dungeon bubble break. The Temple of Light made a fortune by selling deformed products, deceived investors, and maximized their benefits. Like Ned's father, the investor that bought products through investment, become penniless and forced onto the streets. That was all caused by the high-ranking priests, especially Priest Aldian, who scammed Ned's father, using their friendship as leverage and even took away his life. Ned searched all over the world for the Blood Tears, the symbol of his family, that he hasn't even heard a rumor of. What's shocking to him is that his master, the one who possessed the Blood Tears. So Zephyr explained that not long ago, Master told him about the identities of the demon god cult and the 12 apostles, the executives of the cult. The cult leader and half of the 12 apostles are high-ranking priests of the Temple of Light. As they depart into the dungeon, Zephyr plants the seed of doubts that Ned's master plans to offer the cult leader the dragon heart that he bring him. If that happens, they will no longer be able to touch his body forever, and Ned's revenge will go down the drain. Zephyr ultimately saying that they were deceived from the start. To say that Ned's master, who he considered to be his family, has been deceiving him, he thinks that there's no way he can believe that. But if it's not the truth, Ned questioned how does Zephyr even knows the words that his master said to him. So, he come into a crossroad, whether to believe his master or what Zephyr said. Before long, they arrive at the gate of the tomb of the abominable princess. Lucius opens the massive gate to the dungeon that the temple had been trying to clear for the past 10 years. The dungeon is divided into 9 floors, but as they are already familiar with it from the last 10 years, the party easily go through the gatekeeper of the 8th floor. This time, even though the monsters appear with different aura than the upper floors, they still excited to face them. Matthias leading expresses how he will have fun. On the same time at the Temple of Light, Bishop Alfonso, Lucius's uncle, speaks with another priest, saying that they are in trouble since all of the combatants had left for the raid, thanking the other person for lending them his defense force. While Lucius was away on a dungeon, the ones who arrived at the 3rd Parish Great Temple were the Temple Knights dispatched from the capital parish, and the head of leader is Cardinal Aldean, one of the demon god worshipper. So the battle between the mobs of the undead with the mixed party of Temple of Light and the demon god worshipper. Going deeper into the 8th floor, appears another mob of bone golem which several times bigger than the ordinary skeleton. With a single attack from the golem, the shock wave blasting so strong sending several party members flying. The priestess cast her magic, called the Chains of Light, to restrain the golem. It works for a moment, and the party starts attacking it, while simultaneously dealing with the skeleton warriors. Unfortunately, the golem breaks the chain, rampaging to the party. Then Matthias uses a light magic, praying to the goddess to shine a beam of light to coat his sword. In an instant, he strikes the golem twice, making a cross with his sword coated with light aura. He then tells everyone to keep their focus, explaining that if the bone golem is nearby, the summoner of the golem must also be around. It is a skeleton mage, a mid-rank skeleton monster. It can shoot magic, and can order skeletons of lower rank than itself. The mage will continue making the bone golems if they don't kill it first, so they need to kill it fast before there is too many members get hurt. In any case, they have to get closer to the mage for the attacks from the rearguard to reach it. But Matthias is looking for ancient tombstone, as if he doesn't find it, the battle will become a complete mess until he finds it. Suddenly, Lucius comes forward, telling everyone to step aside with the spear of brilliant light and the winged shield of Michael in hand. He uses a light beam to completely decimates the whole skeleton army. In the process, he also breaks the ancient tombstone, an artifact that supplies magic power to the skeleton mage. Now, both Zephyr and Ned witness the power of the saint and a 2 million gold worth of equipment. And with that, they cleared the 8th floor. And before proceeding to the last floor, they take a break while Zephyr sneaks around to somewhere he knew from his previous life. He looks around for a certain secret mechanism in the dungeon until he finds it. Meanwhile, at the temporary conference room, Lucius briefs the captain about the 9th floor's layout and the boss in there. With that, they need to destroy all of the tombstones of each area. If not, they will fail again like last year's raid. Once they reached the entrance of the boss room, they were surrounded by an undead army from the secret passages, and countless lives were lost. Now, they cannot repeat the same mistake as before and must eliminate all variables, even if it takes time. In this raid, the most important missions in the raid is to conserve as much of his Lucius's stamina as possible, and escort him to the boss room in his best condition. It's possible for him, in his current condition, to defeat the monsters, as a year ago in the boss room, looking at a single monster was enough to break their morale. The gatekeeper of the boss room is so strong that they cannot break through. Suddenly, at the site appears a Shoggoth that surprises Matthias, as the demon god worshipper did prepare 5 Shoggoths to carry out their mission. But right now is not the time for it. At that moment, the reason why all 4 leaders looked at the same place was due to some unknown instinct or intuition. All the strong possess a danger sensor more sensitive than anyone. Zephyr presses a secret button, where a helm appears and he starts to roll it. As he did, the layout of the 9th floor is changing. The floor is blocked, moving in a bizarre way. Back at the gathering of demon god worshippers, the day before the raid party member were announced, Matthias explained the plan again to the members. He reveals that Lucius borrowed the legendary item of the Pope called the Stake of Faith. Lucius plans to use it on sticking it between the doors. After that, the demon god worshippers have to take care of Lucius and push him to the position farthest from the entrance. Then, after Ned steals the dragon heart and slips past the doors, only then they will awaken the Shoggoths. As long as they are able to create an opening, the boss will take care of Lucius for them. After that, they will come out of the dungeon and report to the temple that they failed to clear the dungeon. With that, he supplies the demon god worshippers with a vial that will allow them to remove the slave's brand, and also the flute that will control the Shoggoths. That's when Zephyr activates the contraption. He evaluates it won't turn into a complete disaster with all those healers, and calls out the Shoggoths. Before he goes, he shouts at the party to encircle them so it's easier for the healers to purify. so Zephyr activates the contraption, while at the same time, the four leaders looking at what he is about to do, while Matthias can only wonder what Zephyr is doing over there. It is explained that 3 years after the raid, the dungeon was being used to avoid the demons. It is a protective contraption the inner structure of the dungeon by moving every single structural material in the tomb. Because Zephyr has spent time in that place before, he knows its layout very well. As Zephyr runs deeper into the dungeon, Lucius uses the slave's brand on Zephyr as he thoughts that Zephyr will have no choice but to follow the command. But Zephyr doesn't stop. Matthias knows that Zephyr already have the secret vial with him which enables him to remove the slave's brand temporary, so he becomes so enraged by it. Using the light magic, he intends to cut Zephyr up. But Ned comes with his light speed to strike Matthias. After that, Ned also runs following Zephyr's path. As of now, he has succeeded blocking Matthias's attack. But there is one more attack. Lucius uses his beam of light from his spear towards Zephyr, but Zephyr knows the layout of the dungeon very well. He uses the timely mechanism to dodge the beam where the stone block appears right after he runs through it. Not only that, Zephyr uses his cheat skill called Strong Luck, where he can only use it for 3 times. At this moment, luck is on Zephyr's side. As Ned catches up to him, he commends Ned that he is able to follow him up, and Ned give him back the favor as he is saying whatever Zephyr can do, Ned can do as well. Now, it looks like Ned has made his decision to trust Zephyr. Back at the training ground, Zephyr explained to Ned if he steals the dragon's heart and bring it out to run away with it by himself, Ned will definitely die. The only option to stay alive is to clear the boss with only the 2 of them. Ned is angry thinking that Zephyr is only spouting nonsense, but Zephyr tells him to sit down as he will let him in on Zephyr's amazing plan. After he finishes, Ned thoughts that the plan indeed has a high chance of success. The problem is credibility. So Ned asks, what does Zephyr means by saying that Ned will definitely die if he run away with the dragon heart? Ned explains if he runs with the Dragon King style no one will able to catch him. Moreover, what if he becomes the owner of the dragon heart? So Zephyr tells him that the dragon heart can only be absorbed using a special method. If Ned recklessly absorb it, he will definitely die. Secondly, the one who came to the 3rd parish temple as the carrier is Carneal Aldean. If Ned doesn't show up at the meeting, Aldean's twin knights will hunt him down. The twin knights are one of the 10 strongest people in the entire continent. Not only that, the entire demon god worshipper will also hunt Ned down. Now, Ned decides to trust Zephyr with his plan, so they start bouncing around in the chaotic dungeon that constantly changing its shape. His nemesis, Cardinal Aldean, was an executive of the demon god cult, and he is close enough to his master to be put into such an important operation. It wasn't enough for Aldean to destroy Ned's life with a scam and to think that he has been deceived his whole life. Ned looks so furious with the thoughts of the demon god worshipper. A skeleton golem appears in front of them, so Ned uses his Dragon King style technique to kill it in an instant. He determined to destroy all of the demon god worshippers in the Temple of Light. Zephyr tells him to just focus on running, explaining that they will fail if they were even a second late. Zephyr understands how Ned feels, however, he can't afford to be swept along by his emotions. 10 seconds until Zephyr's strong luck runs out, they are about to face the gatekeeper of the boss room. The monster notices them and asks where his heart is. Not only that, he starts releasing his skill to strike them. As the aura blade comes toward them, Zephyr tells Ned to jump, and that's when they see the gap that leads to the boss room. So they evades the gatekeeper and slip into the gap at the last second, when the gap starts closing. In the end, they manage to get into the boss room. Ned is confused as he should be surprised or confused to be able to think they actually entered the boss room like that. As Ned is confused looking for the boss, a sound calling out to them, asking who they might be. She says that he can still feel the energy of her knight outside the door, wondering who they are to interrupt the slumber of the royal family. Outside of the boss room, the party finishes dealing with the Shoggoths. They regroup and confirming the number of the survivors. Lucius is wondering whether Zephyr didn't have a slave's brand from the start or he has something that nullifies the brand's effect. Moreover, right after the Shoggoths suddenly appeared, he activated some sort of contraption. All of that events are telling him one thing. An unknown number of demon god worshippers are hidden in his party. Lucius then asks Arno about Ned and Zephyr. Arno informs him that Zephyr entered the party through Ned's recommendation, and Ned is from the unit directly under Matthias. While Matthias is enraged with wondering whether they ran away because they were scared of facing the boss and after making that much of a mess. He then commands his party to cease the operation, and to get ready to kill or be killed. As Lucius and his party are already prepared for the battle between the Temple of Light and the demon god worshipper, Lucius asks Matthias whether he has anything to say, where he expresses whether they really need something like words between them. Inside the boss room, Ned can't believe that the abominable princess, named Princess Eurydica, who massacred her people 1,000 years ago, was such a serene and beautiful person. But she can't hide her sorrowful eyes that bewitch Ned into wishing to lessen her sorrow. As Ned about to fall for the trap, Zephyr holds him off. To think that he would fall for such a basic illusion. Zephyr says that Ned is idiot. Then Eurydica laughs, saying what a shame that he missed her chance to eat Ned while changing to his true form. The serene and beautiful princess changed into a terrifying demon that lusting for blood. Welcoming the attack, Zephyr mocking Ned, saying that she is his girlfriend. Ned tells him to shut up, as he is already out of the illusion. A skill called Dark Hand, the red hand that absorb one's stamina, and the blue hand that absorb one's magic power. The great magician Eurydica can create hundreds of those hands at once. According to the Dungeon Clear report that Zephyr secretly read in his previous life, many party members fell prey to that skill and become Eurydica's potions. Lucius, against her, who endlessly absorbed stamina and magic power to recover, managed to miraculously defeat her in a half-dead state. Meanwhile, Zephyr can feel his yearning gaze for Zephyr's failure, as if he has been waiting for that moment. At the face-off between the Temple of Light follower and demon god worshippers, Lucius tries to interrogate Matthias with conviction. For now, it's impossible for Matthias to escape using the slaves, as he doesn't know the dungeon structure after it changes. So he has no other choice but to fight Lucius to death. But it's a terrible matchup for Matthias, as the Saint is equipped with legendary grade items, and with the healer captain on top of that, the battle priests. But Lucius's party still don't realize the demon god worshipper in their side, so Matthias evaluate that he still has a chance. He gives a gesture to his follower to drink the vial, and Matthias speaks to Lucius to settle that with a duel like nobles. If Lucius can beat him, he will tell on everything he knows. But Matthias hints is too late, as Lucius uses the slave's brand to commands the slaves to attack Matthias. With that, the demon god worshippers won't carry out Matthias's commands anymore. In other words, Matthias can't stop their attacks without defeating them. It's truly a shame though, as they were been friends since Lucius first entered the academy at 12 years old. They overcame countless trials together until now, as he is 32 years old, and are close enough to understand each other without words. But to think that Matthias betrayed Lucius is beyond him. Now, Matthias has no other choice but to kill all of the demon god worshippers. From their corpses come out the insects that the demon god worshippers grow in their stomachs, the branded worm. Lucius expressed how disappointed he is, as he left the selection of the slaves to Matthias because Lucius trusted him, only to recruit the slaves from the demon god worshippers. Arno thoughts how Matthias is undeniably a force to be reckoned with, as it took him 30 seconds to take care of over 30 slaves. But the Saint Lucius is simply stronger. With a light chain he tied Matthias for judgment. He knew it wasn't going to be easy, but to think that Matthias's sword didn't reach Lucius even once. He wonders whether that was the fate decided by God. Lucius wants to at least hear Matthias's reason for the betrayal, but he refuses to answer and going to break the Stone of Revelation, a thing that allows Matthias to turn himself into a demonification form. Matthias thoughts if his fate is to be manipulated by the hands of God, and being human doesn't allow him to resist them, he determined to detach his life as human. Knowing that Matthias only demonified just earlier, Lucius commands his force to start attacking, so the priest all uses a light magic towards him. But it's useless though. In front of Matthias, their attack is gnaw, and in an instant Lucius appears in front of him, going to strike him with his overpriced equipment. With a skill called Judgment, he attacks Matthias. The shock waves goes so long that it looks like Matthias just being blasted open. But it can't be further from the truth, as Matthias hold the overpriced spear with a single hand of his.